Hey guys, what's going on? I'm going to do my weekly Jeff Bishop Bullseye Trades review update. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to go and check out the full track record for over a year. I've carefully documented every trade down here, so come and check this article out. This is also the article that you can find my affiliate link on, which will take you to checkout for Bullseye Trades for just $99 a year. I don't think you'll find that anywhere else. Special deal for people for this YouTube channel and for my Facebook group, etc. So, here's a list of trades from 2022. I'm going to update it once I've done this video to cover CVNA, which was this week's Bullseye trades. Go through all this, go and back test these things, see how they worked. I've tried to be as transparent and as honest as possible, reporting every one of these trades for you guys to go through. So for people very quickly that aren't familiar with Bullseye trades, it's one trade a week, which might not seem like a lot, but one really good trade a week is all you really need if you're working full time. Sometimes we all overtrade a little bit, right? We start taking dozens of trades a day or several trades a day. This trade is a swing trade. It's typically held for 1 to 4 or 5 days. Typically you're in on the Monday when the idea comes out, just at the market open. Usually you're in about Monday or Tuesday, and then you're out by Wednesday, Thursday or Friday, which is pretty cool. And the gains are pretty substantial. We've seen gains anywhere from 50% to 300% fairly recently as well. And so it's worth doing. If you take $1,000 account and you make 50% on it, $500. If you make full 100%, get $1,000. So it's definitely worth trying. I really like the service. It's one of my favorite, and I continue to make these video reviews every single week. I'm actually surprised the discipline I've had to be able to make these things. Anyway, let's get into this week's trade idea, which came out on Monday. Let's go. This is actually the Raging Bull homepage. So I've logged into my dashboard here. This was the trade ideas that came out on Monday. So here we go. CVNA. It's an options trade. You can play the underlying if you want. Some people I know do that, but generally people are buying calls. So in this case, it was $15 calls for February 24th, and I know some people actually change that if they don't like the price or they want to go a bit further out. They'll actually change the options. It doesn't matter too much as long as you pick ones that have a similar kind of delta, similar kind of expiration. You don't want to go too far out, but sometimes they change the strike price a little bit or whatnot. Anyway, so this is the details as usual, highlighted after some of the due diligence. This week's due diligence was kind of weird, and a lot of people were complaining about it, and I think that's because this was kind of a meme stock. So if we go up to some of what he said here, he always starts the emails with a recap of the previous week. So the previous week, as you could see from my Bullseye Trades review, was MRNA. So we go down here. So I documented it right here. And so Jeff talks about mRNA at the start of the emails. Worked out beautifully. Options at nearly 200%. I think it was a bit more than that, but I'll double check that. I think I have it in as a little bit more than that. The trade worked beautifully. It was a very hard one to mess up since it went down nearly non-stop for 3 days. The problem is, so for Jeff that's good. So Jeff buys dips, right? And so as soon as the trade, well actually these were puts, so never mind. These were mRNA was puts. I'll come back to that point in a little bit though. So talked about how well that worked, but let's get on to CVNA. So CVNA calls, he was basically counting on a short squeeze, which a lot of people were kind of put off by. So normally Jeff has a lot more due diligence out on these things in terms of like the technicals, a little bit more about catalysts and things. This one he actually said, don't judge him on it because it's kind of a long shot, high risk, high reward. And honestly, it wasn't the best trade, even though a lot of people made money on this. Quite a few people didn't as well, just because it was a difficult trade. And so I agreed with him on this. He said it's a trash company, why buy it? The answer in the short term is it doesn't matter how terrible the stock is. I agree with that. And I think a lot of people were like, oh, I'm not buying this because it's going to go bankrupt. Yeah, but we're not investing in CVNA. We're sort of taking a quick 2 or 3 day swing trade on it. And it already had a really nice run, which I can show you in a minute. So if you zoom out and look at the idea from technical perspective, it is a pretty amazing setup. From that, it just means it was going up. I think it had been pretty bullish for a while. And so he'd played that the week before in Bullseye Unlimited, so I think it was kind of fresh on his mind. He obviously thought it still had a bit of oomph in it to keep going, so it seemed like more of like a momentum short squeeze type of play. A lot of people weren't very happy with that though. I didn't mind too much, although it did kind of freak me out a little bit. just because it did have a chance. And he even says in the email, and that's one of my tips for people that I keep telling, is read the email really carefully, because it often contains information that might sway your decision on this. Remember, this is a $99 service, so you're not going to get like every single thing handheld through it every single week. It's a really low cost service, and for what you pay, it's an amazing service. But it does require a little bit of your own trade management, right? And I think that's reasonable. I think most alert services do require some of your own input, right? I don't know anybody who just blindly follows alerts and actually makes any money. Usually, people think of this as a idea rather than an actual, this is what you have to do. And so you're saying he thinks CVNA could get over 16 soon, and if it really goes, it could get to the mid-20 range. Fully aware this could fizzle out, and apes might not have further luck on this. If this happens, 1180 is my stop loss. Wild week. So one thing that I always pay attention to is how confident he sounds in this. So the fact that he says it could fizzle out and apes might not further back, okay. But then he also says that he's going in small, that it's going to be wild week. Often that's a sign to sit on the sidelines for the week. Nevertheless, a lot of people do get into it. A lot of people had success, but a lot of people mistimed it a bit and found themselves at a loss. So want to be fully transparent there in that not everybody made out like bandits. We can look at some of the comments here. Let's do that after we talk about the actual trade though. So let's go and look at the chart for CVNA. So if we go to the one, see, he always looks at the daily, right? So here's the daily. I'll zoom in on this. So it had this really nice run all the way up to here. And so he was thinking that this thing was going to pull back and then kind of take off again. And clearly it's not doing that, but we were able to capitalize on this day here. Which was really good. Unfortunately, it did just sell off again and has continued down. So if we look at the shorter time frame for this, so 5 days, 5 minutes. This is the Friday on the right here, Thursday here, Wednesday here, Tuesday here, and then Monday when the alert comes out pre-market here. And so one of my bits of advice for people is never buy at the open. Occasionally these things will take off. Like for the calls here, they would take off immediately, and the people that wait would lose out or end up chasing, getting a higher price. But I would say about 80% or even more of the time, this thing will pull back during Monday, at least intraday during Monday. Often it'll dip at the open on Tuesday and then take off, and that was what we saw with CVNA. So unfortunately, people that bought here for an inflated premium and then freaked out and sold here, which is still above the 1180 stop. So let's see if we draw that in. So the 1180 stop was right here, 1180. So it did get close to stopping out, and if you'd chased and got a high premium here at market open on Monday, you would have been stopping out down here, and you'd been pretty annoyed and very frustrated with the trade. So that was one thing that I keep reiterating to people with a service, is wait until you start to get a dip. Think of this as bargain hunting. Jeff talks about it like that in his 11 o'clock live streams. And so think about this as getting in on a dip. So don't, he says $3, and we'll look at the contracts in a minute. I try and never ever be in at $3 or above for whatever his idea is. I want to see a 30-40% pullback before I get in, because you're minimizing your risk right at that point and maximizing your reward potential. And so from doing these for years now, I can tell you that if you wait and try and get in, for example here, or sometimes Tuesday morning is even better. Not always, sometimes you'll get in at the open and then Tuesday will take off. In this case, the Wednesday was the day that it took off. But let's have a look at the actual contracts. So this is what the stock did. Obviously it was a weird week, kind of downtrend, big spike up and then a big sell off again. Part of that was the markets, so you've always got to be careful of that. If we zoom out though, one thing I'm just trying to show people is this was the day, right? So this was Monday. You can see this sort of move here is nothing to panic about, right? We see big moves up, big moves down, and so to me this was kind of sideways action, so I was fairly comfortable buying on the dip here. So what I actually did before going any further, I actually bought one contract at the market close here around 3, and then I loaded up on this dip here, knowing fine well that there's a likely quite high chance of this going back up because I've been part of Bullseye for so long, and also because it was really close to the stop. So I knew fine well that my downside would be very minimal. Now that's not always going to work. Sometimes you're buying something like catching a falling knife and this thing would just continue down. But I've been a member long enough to know that often you'll see dips before you see the runs. So that was kind of my thoughts on the play here. I also think there was some support. Let's zoom out a little bit. Well, not really. There's some support down here, I guess, but nothing really. Oh no, that's what I was looking at. So these couple of little dips here. So we were very close to this level from previous pre-market and after hours. So it wasn't the end of the world when it dipped here. I have to admit I was a little bit nervous buying. So I didn't go in that big, but probably bigger than I should have, but it did pay off because we had this huge spike up here, which was really nice. Anyway, let's look at the contracts, because sometimes, you know, you want to look at things that the actual contracts, right? So let me see if I can find what the contracts were again. So they were the February 24th $15 calls. So if I go to February 24th, $15 calls right here. So you can see they're down significantly now, which I'm very glad I got out of. Yellow. So we're plotting the calls now. I'm going to put it 5-day, 5-minute again, like here. So this was the 6th right here. So this is Friday, Thursday, these lines, Wednesday, Tuesday, and then Monday. And so the $3 mark for, like, that was his kind of idea, say buy somewhere around $3, which was right here. Let's mark this. And so people maybe were buying up here at 360 or even 340 kind of level, maybe into the close, even chasing up to 350. And so my goal is always to buy, like I said, below that, which is why I only bought one round about 3. I was a little worried we were starting to get a bit perky here. But then on this dip I was able to get a lot more down here. I actually waited for it to start fish hooking, like this little curl, and got in around here somewhere. So my average ended up being like 250, which was really good. And so immediately, because of that timing, I was able to be up and felt very comfortable even when it just got back to 3. And I was able to hold into the next day, where we saw a really large spike in the price. So it started to really squeeze up here, and it ran all the way up to 475. So if you're in around 2 to 3, running to 475 is pretty nice. And you know, I was watching it at market open, but these are 5-minute candles, so this wasn't just like a 1-minute spike. We're talking like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Almost an hour of running up. And so I know one problem people were having is they weren't able to get out on this spike. And, you know, they were kind of miffed because it did pull back all the way back down towards 3 to about break even. Now, that was very frustrating because then obviously it sold off and people ended up stopping out down here for a fairly significant loss, like maybe not 50%. I know a lot of people use a stop of 50%, but if it broke down past the stop on Bullseye down here somewhere. And so it's not the best week. I mean, you had to be kind of careful about your entry and exit. I think if you follow my like suggestions, and obviously like I'm not the best trader ever or anything like that, I don't even consider myself a very good trader, which is why I use things like Bullseye trades. And so this idea of entering late and then taking your profits quickly, this was the profit target. So you can see it did tap it, but I don't think on something as crazy as CVNA it's a good idea to hold once it gets close to a profit target like this. Given that this thing did just immediately sell back off. So very high risk, high reward. There was no way I was going to hold this thing for $20 or anything like that, way up here somewhere. So yeah. So yeah, really, I would say it's a mediocre week, even though I made 70% on my calls. I know a few other people in the chat rooms were able to make, let's see, this is the chat room right here. So some people made money here, so let's just have a look and see what people were saying. So Jeff does answer in the chat, which is good. Jeff sold half of them apparently on that spike and then stopped out the other half, I think. This guy Jeffrey made 250% on the February 10th, so he went much shorter expiration, much lower strike price. So that's pretty amazing, right? 250%. Pretty good. Some people are saying good call, Jeff. I know it was kind of split down the middle this last week. I enjoyed the alert. I was a little bit nervous, I have to admit, at times because of the nature of the stock. But this guy sold all my calls for 250%. So beautiful. Observing price development. Very volatile. Yeah, it's a meme stock, and I don't think Jeff usually does them, but still, it's pretty good. So this guy said they ran to 100%, but he only got from 70 cents to $1.05. Still a decent win, like 50%, right? Another win, this guy says. Had to say in my doubts, won't lie. Yeah, I think we all had our doubts, Jeff. I think that was definitely an issue. This guy got 50%. It got halted, yeah, I forgot to mention that. It got halted on the way up, it went up so quickly. So Jeff's admitting, it's a scammy meme stock, but still, it can, if you play it right, you can get a good pop on it. So yeah, anyway, you get the idea. Not as many people happy this week, but still plenty of people enjoyed it. So, like I said, come and check out the full review of the Bullseye trades. So right here, you'll get a ton of information about how I play them. You'll get special access to my discount link right here, which is the lowest price you'll find it at. I talk about Jeff a little bit more. I did an interview with him that might be interesting for you guys. Talk about Bullseye trades. And then, of course, the all-important track record for the last thing. I've done a ton of videos on this. I was posting the videos, like the one you're watching now, in this article every single week, and then it just got too crazy. There was just too many videos appearing for each breakdown. So I decided just to do like a little sentence with the date, and then you guys can go back and look if you want. But I try and be extremely transparent and honest with this track record. I think it's really important in this industry to do that. So, alright guys, hopefully that was helpful, and I'll talk to you guys next time.